Listen, acting can be really stressful as well, but you still love it. And directing has been similar, very different, but quite similar in some ways. It's been amazing. I definitely wanted to get up every morning and go smash myself on it. But smash yourself on it, you do you know what I mean? I remember waking up one morning feeling like I need root canal surgery or something like that, because my molars were killing me, and I was like, I get toothache, just because I was clenching my jaw so much in the night. I'm like, my face was like swelling up, which is quite problematic because I have to be in the film as well. And I was like, I'm going to look like fucking like Desperate Dan or something like that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alison.
That's Dutch courage.
A woman of many talents. What was it's been something that you've been kind of, it's been in the back of your head for a while in terms of, when you look at the list of directors that you've worked with across your career as well, both in terms of, big screen, small screen theatre as well, you've been picking up kind of little nuggets along the way of how you would do it, how you wouldn't do it as well, when you got that opportunity.
Yes. Like when I started in the business quite early, I worked with a lot of first-time directors that I felt, certainly from an artistic, that's not fair, certainly from communication with actors kind of point of view, probably weren't that well versed. And I thought to myself, man, I know how to do this. Like, I could see their mistakes and I could go, I'm identifying that, I would do this, I would do that. And that made me think that I could direct. And then, like 4, 5, 6 years into my career, I started to work with like some real masters. And I'm not saying the guys at the beginning weren't, it was just more in how they talk to actors and getting what they want from actors. Then I started to work with some people who not only did they have the technical side of the craft down, but the artistic side. And I was just at a loss. I couldn't understand what it was. I could identify the mistakes other people made. I couldn't even identify the brilliance, what it is that they're doing that was so good. Creating this atmosphere on set, penetrating a story, getting actors to do stuff that they never thought they were capable of every single day. And I was like, I don't know how this guy's doing this. And that made me think, I'm not ready to direct yet. I need to have more experience and I need to hopefully work with as many of these kind of people as possible. And by the age of like 42 or 40, I'm like, right, I think I'm ready to direct. Do I really understand what it is that they did that's so brilliant? I don't think so. Not really. Otherwise, I'd just copy it. But I think I've absorbed some of it, and I try and implement certain things. One of the biggest things that I try to implement every day was like trying to be positive, it comes from the top down, do you know what I mean? If you've got an unstable director, if you've got an arsey director, if you've got an angry director, you're going to have an unstable, arsey and angry set. And if you've got a positive director who's there trying to be a boss, be a good boss, you get a better atmosphere on set. You get people willing to put themselves out there more. You get people willing to take risks. With actors, definitely you need that, because the whole thing of acting is risk. We're standing here, even in this room, there's got to be a good few people who think I'm rubbish. Do you know what I mean though? Like that's the risk. Every time you go on stage, every time you go on camera, you are going, I'm going to get judged. And so creating a positive environment where people feel that putting themselves out there, doing something that they might actually think is wrong, but I'm telling them, I need this for the film. I need you to go bigger, I need you to go massive, I need you to jump off a cliff artistically. They're only going to do that when they feel positive. And so, I got that from a good few directors that I've worked with. The enthusiasm. I think the two that I've worked with, the enthusiasm thing, I've probably taken that from John Baird and Danny Boyle more than anyone. A possession of the story, a love of the story, a transference to that love of the story to your actors. I think I probably took from Joe Wright. And then I think preparation-wise, I've never worked with anybody more prepared than M. Night Shyamalan, who just is unbelievable, just how technically prepared he is, to the point that he can make a film that would take someone else 12 weeks, he can make it in like 6. So, listen, I'm not there on their level on any one of these departments, but trying to emulate those things, whilst also leaving space to just be yourself.
Exactly, find who you are as director.
Yeah. Because it's all about communication. that's art. Art is just about communication, isn't it? And that's communication to the audience, but it's communication to your peers, communication to your employees, communication to your actors, and that means it's got to be from your heart. You can't just be doing a good impression of all those guys, but you try and absorb it and then vomit it back out in your own way.
Was it? I don't know, because Glasgow Film was shot in Scotland as well. Did that mean something kind of extra special to you, that your kind of first foray into that world? It was, it was at home.
Yeah, no, totally. Look, when I said to my agent that I think at this time I want to direct something, I'm in a privileged position, right? I'm a lucky bastard actor who's had 30 years of career, and I've got a certain level of notoriety and all that, so it makes it a bit easier for me to be a director. But when I said I wanted to be a director, I looked at my career and I've done a few Scottish things, but really I've not done that much. But the minute I said I wanted to be a director, every single script that I got sent was Scottish Council Estate, Scottish Council Estate, Scottish Council Estate. I'm from a Scottish Council Estate, but my career hasn't really been that. So it was interesting to me actually, just how it's just, people just go, all right, I'm going to profile you, that's what you're from, and that's what you're going to get. So I love stories set in Scottish Council Estates, but I'm also aware that my communication to an audience, if it's going to be just from my heart and be my real response and not just copying other directors, is that I want to make films that are entertaining, and I don't want to just make, there's no just in this, by the way, these films are amazing, but I don't want to make something that's just, it's shit in Scotland, it's gritty in Scotland, working classes, crap, and it's a tough grind, do you know what I mean? I wanted to make a story that was aspirational and entertaining, as well as taking in the realities of what it's like to come from a low-income background. And so I rejected a lot of scripts that came my way. Brilliant scripts, totally valid films, I would love to see those films, but I needed to wait for something else, and thankfully it was still a Scottish film that managed to satisfy my desire to tell a story about people from somewhere like a council estate, but also entertain and just enlist pathos from the audience and make you laugh and cry, And because it's so hard, I think, when you most comedies, most movies, certainly in this country anyway, unless they are liberated from the realities of financial restriction, you don't get to be entertaining. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have a certain level of freedom from the realities of life to really sort of go into comedy, romance, entertainment. And it's quite hard to be comedic, romantic, entertaining, it seems anyway, to tell those types of stories when you're also trying to represent the harsh realities of what it's like to be from a low-income background with few opportunities and no agency and glass ceilings above you. And this script, I thought, was the first thing I read that was set in that kind of environment that allowed me to kind of get excited and tell that kind of story anyway. It sounds like I'm down on working class films. I'm absolutely not. Just because you're telling a story set in a council estate doesn't mean that you can't go far. Doesn't mean that you can't push and pull your audience in ways that aren't just about going, oh, this is so hard, this is so sad. Because I grew up in a council estate and it wasn't all so hard and it wasn't always sad. It was brilliant.
Microphone again. No, I think what you're saying is about being entertaining. It's almost breaking down people's preconception of what those stories are, which I'm so excited about. California's, I cannot wait to see it. Do you know what was so nice about today was kind of like giving myself the luxury of having a James McAvoy viewing weekend. Of like, what am I going to watch? There's so much. It's just the variety of stuff as well. It's just phenomenal. I didn't get the chance to speak to you around Speak No Evil when it came out. I spoke to your director, James. Huge congratulations on that film. I mean, that's a great, isn't it fantastic? Yeah. And terrifying. But that's a great example of what you were just talking about, the idea of being, it can be scary, but it can also be entertaining. Yes. And that character felt like, it felt like just such a joy in a weird way to get to play, because he was kind of just so many things.
Yeah, no, I think the character is Speak No Evil, again, somebody from a low-income background, but you're getting to tell a mainstream story in a medium, or in a genre, I should say, rather, that people still go to the cinema to see. I mean, what is it we go to the cinema for these days? We go for superhero movies, Tom Cruise movies, and horror movies. You know what I mean? So,
in that order.
yeah, so this was kind of a horror movie, and I was like, all right, great, but it was also about a guy who lived outside the system and didn't really, you know, didn't have that education and all that. Excuse me as I burp. And also it was the chance to do something that was, yes, scary, but like you say, entertaining and funny. And the joy in the guy, from an acting point of view, I mean, utterly uncompromising character. And I think I'm quoting Ian Bannon from Braveheart here, by the way. When he says, I've always remembered this line, uncompromising people are really easy to admire. He's talking to Rob Roy, not Rob Roy, Angus McFadden. Sorry?
Robert the Bruce.
Thank you, that one. He's talking to Man in the Robes. And he's saying, of his affection for William Wallace, he said, I can't believe it. I'm like, what a fucking stereotype am I? Like, bring me to Scotland and I'll talk about Braveheart. Jesus. And he's going, uncompromising people are really easy to admire. And they are. They can be divisive and repulsive, as we see from a lot of public figures out there at the moment. But like, I know, I'm not naming names, I'm not giving anybody that headline. But they are, they're really attractive. There's a sort of freedom, there's a feral, animalistic freedom to that guy particularly, which almost feels sort of like you would aspire to that if it wasn't so toxic.
Yeah.
And he is so toxic. And the original, because it was a remake, there was a Danish film that ours is a remake of, and in the Danish film, the baddies win. And I was like, I don't know, the original film, the character wasn't quite as politically incorrect or toxic, or abusive or controlling. Well, he was abusive and controlling, but he wasn't so politically incorrect or toxic. And they win, the baddies win. And in our film, we were like, you can't win. We just feel like it's okay to have this character in the film. It's okay to enjoy spending time with this character in the film. It's okay to laugh with this character in the film. But the film ultimately has to judge him. The film got a little bit of criticism for not letting the baddies win like the original. But I was like, if we don't kill me, then we basically validate his point of view. And it's great to have sort of nasty bastards explored. It is. We need to do it. We need to explore what it is that makes us these toxic, horrible people. But you still got to take a standpoint, I think. And the film couldn't validate him. I don't know why I'm defending the film. I'm just really insecure about it. It still stung, that criticism. Yeah, the film had to judge him, I think.
But I like that as well because the kind of it was your version of it. It was your interpretation of that film, and so I like that it doesn't follow through in the exact same ways the original does as well. It's got its own journey, and it's got its own purpose and thing to say that you want to say as creatives as well.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it had to have its own thing. We couldn't just do the exact same thing. I think there's a few discussions in that film. There's sort of American versus European, there's sort of urban versus rural, there's working class versus middle class, and there's nice people versus politically incorrect fucking mad bastards. So yeah, no, I feel that we definitely did our own thing with it, and yeah. I don't know, people were like, was it weird making a remake? I'm like, I never saw the first one until I finished our one. So no, not at all.
Can't listen to Cotton Eye Joe in the same way ever again as well. All I see now when I hear that song is you just being a complete dick to yourself. It's like, oh my god.
It was weird, as a person who's not mental and horrible, hopefully, and as a dad, which I'm always wary to say that, because I think you can understand why it's weird even if you're not a parent. But I remember in the moment it felt really weird. And we know that wee boy and that wee girl in the film were amazing, but they're around some pretty weird stuff. So we were very aware that like you didn't want to create this atmosphere of abuse or darkness on set. So it was weirdly quite a light set. We had a really lovely summer in Gloucestershire, just farting about on a bucolic farm estate, and not making it too depressing and dark for these two children, because it's their summer, and they're only kids, and just because it's acting doesn't mean it's okay to put your kids to work. Why is it that with acting and with the film industry, you're like, I would never make my 12-year-old kid work in a bakery, but I'm going to make him work in a film set for 60 minutes a day. What? So it's got to be alright, it's got to be fun, it's got to be, and they had a great time. They were running about collecting bugs and doing schooling and farting about in the farm for the summer. It was gorgeous, it was really nice.
I like that mix as well. I was like, oh, not so bad after all. You mentioned John S. Baird, and I wanted to talk to you about Filth, because I think, again, that's another character, Bruce, where you could just let rip. You could just, do you know what I mean, in terms of that character who's, you know, just got so many kind of things that are questionable, but as an actor, having that opportunity with that meat to kind of play with is a gift in a way.
Yeah, no, totally. Like, I think I don't know, I mean, a director once accused me when I turned him down, we fell out over this. The reason I turned him down was because the character was a bit doe-eyed and straight. I don't mean straight sexuality-wise, I mean, he was just a bit, the kind of performance that I would need to give to make that part work was just a classic sort of filmy performance, doing a lot of nothing acting and having big eyes and letting the audience into your soul, which is great. Love those performances. I've done a few of them, I might do them again. But I was at a time in my career where I didn't want to do it. Anyway, I told him that, and he went, oh, I get it, you want to do acting. And I was like, fuck the fuck off. And we didn't talk for years after it. And, but he was right, I did. I want to do acting. I want to do everything in one part, if you can. And a part like the guy in Speak No Evil gave me an opportunity to do that, but playing Bruce in the Phillips was like, you've got to do everything. Got to, like, nerves breaking, comedy, make them laugh, make them cry, fucking crying while you're masturbating, like action, pathos, like it was every level of emotion, every level of effect on the audience. They loved you for a minute, they fucking hated you for a minute, they hate themselves for liking you for a minute. You're making them laugh at things that they would condemn in the street. Like, you're pushing and pulling the audience. It was, like, as a performer, it felt like you got a full workout. It was a full body workout, you know what I mean? So yeah, I want to do acting.
That's such a weird thing to hear. It's like, do you not know what I do for a living?
I know, I think they were just, I think his point, if there's any confusion about it, was that, like, he's like, oh, I get it, you want to do showy acting. Whereas he wanted to stick a camera on me and let the filmmaker do it for me with the angle and the patina and the music and the... Sometimes I think directors just want you to stand still on camera. Do you know what I mean? And honestly, the weird thing is, as an actor, I'm always wanting to do. I always want to do something, I always want to give, I always want to provide something. I come to directing, and I'm in the edit, and I'm going, God, just stop moving for a minute, stop doing something. Sometimes, not all the time. I've got an amazing cast, but every now and again you're in the edit just going like, please, just give me like 5 seconds of just looking at the window, stop acting, just for a second. I need to just rest on you for a minute.
Do you think that experience is, you know, have you been in anything, or have you filmed anything since you finished directing? That side of it, or not?
No.
Because I wonder if that experience is going to kind of like
it will.
change. Do you think it will?
So I said this to my editor the other day, it's totally changed what I'm going to do. I'm still going to do what I do, I'm still going to do acting. I'm going to do way too much, I'm going to provide too many options, but then I think what I'm going to do, if I've got the time to do it, if we're on a budget that allows for like a few takes rather than just 1 or 2, I'll give the director something where I just slow it right down, give him a lot of space, and give the director a lot of opportunity to rest. Now, some films don't need it. Some films really need. Some films are too long. Like we're always getting it these days, aren't we? Like films that are 2.5 hours long or 3 hours long. Those films luxuriate in that sort of actor sort of not doing nothing but sort of just resting on them a little bit. My film is like snappy, and so at times we're actually trying to like slow it down So if I'm in a film that I feel is like maybe a snappy film, which I love, by the way, I want a 90-minute film. Remember those days? Where you didn't have to like, you know, get a midlife medical checkup halfway through the film. But I think if I'm in a film that's snappy, I'll give the director something to be able to just rest.
But it's, whilst you're saying that, all I can think about is Glass and Split, because that almost does both, I think, in the fact that because you're playing so many characters, or versions of a character, there are those moments where it's sharp, it's fast, but then there are those moments where us as an audience are like, who is he? And so you do have that kind of, you allow us a moment to kind of stop and be kind of inquisitive about it as well. Can we talk a little bit about that collaboration with M. Night Shyamalan? Because, I mean, absolute kudos to you and huge congratulations on those films and those multiple characters. Did you create a lot of those together? You know, in terms of kind of the nuances and the little sort of really subtle things.
There's a lot of it on the page for a lot of the characters. Some of them weren't so much on the page. But we created them all together. That first film, Split, he's never worked with somebody who's so, excuse me, I'm burping again. Quite often you'll make a film, it'll be what it is on the page, then it is what it is during the shoot. They can feel like different things. During the shoot, the film starts to develop and become its own thing, and then you see it in the edit and it's become something else again. Not a bad thing, this can all be brilliant, but it's a surprise sometimes. M. Night Shyamalan makes the exact film that you read, and he makes the exact film that he wrote, which he communicates really clearly to the reader, and then when you watch it on the screen, you're like, yep, that's exactly what I read. He's so capable of doing exactly what he wants to do in a way that I don't think I've ever experienced with any director. But anyway, to your point, we spent a couple of weeks. It's pretty last minute. I got that job 3 weeks before we started shooting.
What?
And,
3 weeks?
Yeah, it was meant to be. I've said this before, so it's like it keeps popping up as a headline, which I'm always like, God. See, sometimes when you do an interview, you're like, fuck, that's gonna be a headline. But
stay within the room, probably.
But this one's already been a headline, so it's not that bad. It was meant to be a different actor. It was meant to be Joaquin Phoenix, and for whatever reason, that didn't work out. And I ended up getting the job quite last minute. I bumped into M. Night Shyamalan at Comic-Con in San Diego. We were there with X-Men. I just shaved my head, and we were playing some daft game where we smacked shit at each other. And for whatever reason, I went, that guy. And so I got that job super last minute. We had like 2 weeks, and we sat in his office and just started like chucking ideas about characters. And I had an idea about Patricia, that she was like a nun, but she'd lost her faith in Christianity, and she'd found faith again in the beast. And but she'd always been celibate. She was a virgin, but there was a real desperation to sort of like reach and feel and touch, and why she kind of came across as kinky, I think, is because she was fascinated by the sensuality that she'd never experienced. So we like came up with all that, and then we came up with Dennis, and Dennis was originally meant to be from Philly, because we shot it in Philly. He makes most of his films in Philly. And so they had me working on a Philly accent for a couple of the characters, and then eventually they were just like, I don't know if it was just because they were like, you can't get the Philly accent right, or if it was because they were like, the Philly accent is quite an interesting sound. You never hear it on film. You hardly ever hear it on film. Even Rocky doesn't sound like he's from Philly. It sounds kind of New Yorky. It sounds like I'm totally slagging off Sylvester Stallone. One of the best performances I think you'll ever see in film, in that first Rocky film. It's incredible. If you haven't seen it, go see the original Rocky. What a performance. But you so rarely hear the Philly accent, even when the film is set in Philly. Anyway, they stopped me from doing the Philly accent. Good story, James. So we're working on that, but the only one that was hard to get was Hedwig, and we were like scratching our heads. Hedwig wasn't coming together. If you haven't seen the film, or if you have and you've forgotten, Hedwig is this like 8-year-old boy or 12-year-old boy, I can't even remember now. And he's got a speech impediment. and he didn't have one in the script. And so we're at the read-through, and there's like, I think there's people from Universal Studios there, there's people from Blumhouse, Jason Blum's company, who I've been lucky enough to make a few films with now, and the whole cast is there, the whole crew is there, we're still working on characters. I got this job last minute, I am absolutely cacking my pants, because the thing about read-throughs are, you watch a film, you go, this is great, or you don't, but you go, like, this is brilliant, full production value. A read-through for a film, they are 99% of the time bogging, like rubbish. I'm always like, I don't know why we're even making this film, it's going to be wrong.
You've got to be in character. I've never been in a read-through. I'm sure a lot of us haven't. But is it you? So you sit around the table, and are you acting? Are you acting it, or are you just kind of in between reading it and acting it, or what's the kind of?
So, because I like to do acting, I usually give it some, right? But what usually happens is people do film acting, either because that's the kind of actor they are, or because they're shy and it's like, it's a really weird environment and people just go, and it's like, when you get a microphone on you and you get the camera on you and the camera's up in your face, you can be like, right? See, when you're in a room like this, it's like theatre. You've got to make it, like, you've got to kind of give it some. Otherwise, literally people can't hear you, right? So quite a lot of the time in a read-through, you're just kind of going, and you've got two actors trying to out-quiet each other, or like, you know, like, this is a fucking nightmare. So I'm like trying to give it, but at the same time, I've got about 14 characters to come up with, and like we haven't finalised a lot of them, and I'm trying to give it with these half-arsed characterizations. And but right before we started the read-through, he goes, for Hedwig, I want you to try with a speech impediment. And I was like, what kind of speech impediment? He goes, try it with a lisp. And I'm like, in front of everybody here, read-through. I was like, So we did that, and then, but I do remember like looking over at him halfway through like the second scene that Hedwig's in, and we were like, why does this work? We don't know, but this suddenly makes him work. So that's how we got Hedwig. But yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun doing that one, and again, it gave me the chance to do this, and this, 100 things. And I've been so lucky in my career to do so many different things, but I've been really lucky in my career to do a few films where just in the film I get to do like sort of nearly everything I can do, which is a real privilege, because I don't think a lot of actors get that, you know? I've been really lucky.
And to get to kind of go back and do another film with him as well, you know, in terms of kind of to revisit that in a way.
Yeah, no, totally. And take it, I mean, my God, going back for the second one. The first one, he wasn't 100% sure that he wanted to link it to Unbreakable. It was still a decision. And I'd seen Unbreakable, but in the original split script that I got, it didn't have the scene with Bruce Willis at the end. So I didn't know that we were in the world of Unbreakable. I didn't know that there was a potential to do another film with Sam and Bruce. And so it wasn't until we came back for reshoots, and weirdly, like Split is a pretty low budget film. Yeah, really low budget. Made it in 6 weeks. He self-financed it. And that's why it made a lot of money, is because it cost nothing, not nothing, but it cost relatively little to make. And therefore, the advertising spend, we were in profit in the first weekend because it was just a low budget thing. But why did I tell you that?
Because originally wasn't in the script to link them.
Yeah, I had no idea it was going to become this bigger thing. I just did it off the strength of the story, not because I was like, oh great, I'm going to be in this franchise. But coming back for the second one and getting to work with Sam and Bruce was amazing. And Samuel Jackson, just the coolest guy. The coolest guy, amazing. And so, like, excited and keen to do acting. I'm really labouring that one, aren't I? Don't worry guys, there's plenty more of it coming.
He's one of your people.
You what?
He's one of your people. He wants to do
Absolutely.
acting.
Oh, he loves acting. He's just so, he's like, I don't use this term often, but it seems so appropriate, and he maybe thinks it isn't, but he just seems so jazzed by it. He's jazzed. He's jazzed, man.
That's infectious for, you need that, like you were talking when you talked at the start about the atmosphere you want to create on set as a director. It's so must be so important for you, you know, in terms of especially when you've got like you know, even if it's a two-header, but having an ensemble as well, you must need that energy to be able to, you know, to give it your best sort of thing as well. It must be an important part of it.
Enthusiasm. We're really lucky to get to do what we do. But the other thing is as well, it takes a ton of energy, this job. Like, you're working crazy hours, you're working 16-hour days. The business is built upon the motto and the principle that the show must go on. And the business also sort of exploits that, because everybody comes in here with I have to sacrifice to do this job. I sacrifice my family hours, I sacrifice, I'm not even in the same country as my family a lot of the time. I don't mean just for me, I mean for everybody in the film, everybody in the production. It sounds like we're going on so hard. I'm not. It's a brilliant industry, it's a brilliant career. I love it and I'm so grateful to it. But you sacrifice a lot. And so the enthusiasm of the participants is so important. It's why it's really easy when you get like a lead actor or a director or a producer who's like a dark hole of like, just sucks all the energy out from being badly behaved or just not being that way. It's really hard to get around it because it's too hard, this job, not the acting, this business. The job of making a film is too hard across every department for people to have people who are not like committed and giving it full welly. Doesn't mean you need to kind of turn up every day like but you can have your own version of it, but you got to come committed, you got to want to be there, and we're lucky to get to do it. So when people are acting, I don't know, sometimes you get people come in being a bit sort of chippy about it or a bit depressed about it, or like, this is a bunch of bullshit and just here to make my money, you know. You're like, come on man, this is like, not everybody gets to do this. For every one of us that's here, there's another 100 that never got to get here.
Yeah.
We are lucky. We should really embrace that, you know.
It's lovely to see how much you also kind of appreciate the other kind of mediums that you get the chance to work in. Whether that's, I love that show Together that you did with Sharon Morgan. I thought that was a fantastic, just a really interesting kind of concept. You know, the TV stuff, but theatre is really important to you as well. What do you get from that, you know, that's slightly different, or is it different from, you know, from working on a film? Why is it important to kind of keep that plate spinning?
It's massively different from film. I guess it is I don't know, it's like, it's
scary.
No, it's not. It's brilliantly challenging. But it's all scary, and that's what I'm here for. If it's not scary, then it's like, why do it? But the theatre, what's the theatre like? The theatre is like the purest form of it. Like when we make a film, sitting here with a camera, I'm telling a story to people who aren't in the room, and they're a year away, at least. We're trying to tell a story to people through time. It's mental when you think about it. But when you're on stage, just like this right now, we're telling a story to you. I can look you in the eye, and it's direct communication. So the immediacy of it is not just immediately gratifying, because it can be terrifying, because if you're rubbish, you can look into your eyes and go, fuck, you're not enjoying this. But that's the gamble, that's the risk, that's the stakes, that's what makes it so fun. But the immediacy of it is special, and that is what for me, I don't know, I've got this half-baked theory that the origin of performance art, i.e. acting or dancing or singing or playing musical instruments, whatever, the origin of that is like either human or animal sacrifice, right? Because it's like, alright, we're going to put something up on this altar stage and we're going to watch it suffer. Right?
We'll get so much enjoyment out of it.
And then we'll feel better about ourselves afterwards. That's what watching a film is, that's what watching a play is, that's what watching a singer sit up there and talk about the breakup that they've never gotten over and the alcoholism that they suffered because of it, right? That's why we enjoy sad fucking songs. Sad shit. Why do we enjoy sad, depressing movies? We don't just sit there going like, this is so sad, I can't stop watching it. There is a part of us that enjoys it. There's a part of it that's good for us. And I think it comes from human and or animal sacrifice. Anyway, so that's what theatre is, right? That's the theatre is, and we're on stage sacrificing. What are we sacrificing, right? It's not always about like painful sacrifice. It can be you sacrifice your dignity. You're in a comedy and you drop your trousers and everybody sees your wee white arse, right? You're sacrificing your dignity, or maybe you're sacrificing your physicality because you're doing some amazing dance performance. Not me, but you're doing some amazing dance performance where you're like breaking bones every night. You know what I mean? Or you're sacrificing your emotional stability because you're going on stage and tearing yourself up every night and having a mental breakdown. Whatever it is, you're putting something out there. You're bleeding on the stage. And I think that's what we're there for as an audience. That's what I want to see as an audience. I want to see somebody leave something on the stage because I've paid for it, and I've paid for you to come out and
You're
sweat
so
blood.
Scottish.
But in the theatre, you get the sense of like the worth of it much more than I do in film. Because in film, I'm telling a story to a camera, and you guys aren't there, you know.
How do you, it's a really weird question, but I remember coming to see a play at the Trafalgar Theatre.
Is it a funny one or the Macbeth one?
It was a funny one.
Hey, you've got a couple of laughs in that Macbeth.
It's a tragic comedy.
It was
Pockets of, it's got rain in the title.
Oh, 3 Days of Rain.
Was that not
No.
the Trafalgar Theatre?
No, that was at the Apollo. Or was it the one where I was like a mad English bastard?
Yes.
It was...
Anyway.
The ruling class.
There you go,
Peter
that
Barnes.
was it. But how do you, right, because you were so close to the audience in
Aye.
that theatre, like literally like this, how do you, like, kind of ignore them?
You don't. You just... there's no fourth wall. Like... Yeah, no, the more and more I go in my career, even in the film business as well, or telly business as well, I'm not trying to ignore the camera, I'm not trying to ignore the crew, I'm not trying to ignore the audience when we're on stage, because I'm not trying to be the character, I'm not trying to become the character ever. It might seem like I'm putting on a character, but I'm not. You can't. It's physically, emotionally, spiritually impossible to become someone else, right? Unless you're some superhero, right? That can literally become other people. It can't happen. It's just me. So if it's just me, why am I trying to pretend that it's not just you? You're there. So let's share it. And it's the same in the film business as well. I don't look at the camera, but I'm absolutely telling the story to the camera that's right there. So that's my avenue to the audience. So why would I not milk it? He's like, basically, other actors was like, he's just always trying to get his face on camera. But no, I don't try and ignore the audience. There are certain plays that you'll do where the character can see the audience. And then there are certain plays we do where the character talks to the audience, or does sometimes and doesn't other times. But at all times, I think I'm very aware of the audience, because that's why we're there. I'm doing the play not just with the other actor, I'm doing the play with the audience as well.
Because I remember having this woman sat next to me, she would not stop coughing. And I was like, shut up, or leave and get some waters. I found it annoying. I was like, it's got to be putting him off.
Do you know what, you can't get used to it, but every now and again someone will be so incessant, you're like, for fuck's sake, come on, right.
It's like going over like that. Have some more. I also wanted to talk about, because it's coming on in a year after this, Last King of Scotland.
Yes.
And you and Forrest Whitaker in that film, just that kind of, it was early on in your career, you get the opportunity to have a scene partner like that. Have you had that opportunity, or have you taken that opportunity throughout your career where there's been certain scene partners that you've relished that, those moments where you've gone, I'm liking that, and I'm, learning from this person, and the idea that you're always learning, you're never kind of settled with what you're able to do.
You're always learning about the craft, it sounds wanky, but the craft, and you're always learning about yourself. And it's weird as an actor as well, it's almost, it is pseudo-psychology. You're trying to understand why people do the shit they do, and why that's interesting and all that. But so you get a bit, you learn more and more about yourself. But in terms of what you're talking about, scene partners, he was incredible. He was, I think people find him quite scary in the film at times. I thought it was really funny, at least off camera, you know what I mean? I remember there was a day we were in this Mercedes and I'm driving it and it had a hole in the floor underneath me, like literally like Flintstone style. I could have, you know, if we ran out of petrol, I could have like tried to do it. And it had been one of Idi Amin's cars. It had been one of his fleet. And that was my character's car. Idi Amin makes a gift of it to me in the film. And so I'm driving Forrest about in this motor in Uganda. And we're doing an action scene where we're getting shot at. And you see it in the film. And we're driving down this hill to a T-junction. And I have to sort of take it quite tight and we get away. At this one take that we do, the lock-off, we call it a lock-off, where they lock the road off so that there's no not pedestrian traffic, but local traffic coming through because we're doing something potentially dangerous. Didn't happen. And so we're coming down to this junction and I nearly kill the both of us. And he stays in character. he's not like 100% in character all the time, but he's in accent 100% of the time. And he's sort of like, it's like he's in contact with the character the whole time. Do you know what I mean? He's character adjacent, if not 100% in character the whole time. And this car nearly comes and like kills us, and we manage to swerve and all that kind of stuff. And he goes, "Wow!" I'm not going to do the accent, but he goes like, "Wow, you're really wheeling it." And I was like, "I know, it's amazing considering I've not even got a driver's license." Nobody had asked me. Nobody had asked me for a driver's license. And it's weird because had I already done it? Yeah, I'd already done Shameless, where I'd played a car thief. I'd show up every day and say I'd have a different car to drive, and nobody asked me in that if I had a driver's license either. Weird. But yeah, no, he was incredible, and like, he was very much, like I said, I don't understand his process, I don't know it, I don't want to speak for him. I don't really understand the method process, if indeed that is what he was doing. But it seems somewhere in that realm. And he, at the same time as doing that, a lot of method actor-y type relationships I've sort of been exposed to, I've not enjoyed, because it feels like it's keeping everybody at arm's length. Yeah. Again, any method actors in the world, if that's not what you do, I'm so sorry. But I felt quite excluded, felt like the director was pushed away, everybody's pushed away, because it's about their process. He was not like that at all. He was like, just welcomed me right in. And it was a privilege because he's exceptional in that film. And hopefully if you watch it today, if you haven't seen it already, you'll see why he won an Oscar for it, because he was exceptional.
Yeah, it's a wonderful film, it's so lovely. That's what's been so nice about today, being just reminded about all these, you know, your performance, but also just how great these films are as well.
It's what's been really nice about watching my films is about remembering how good everybody else is. I get you, thank you.
As well as, James, as well as. I read a really lovely interview that you did with Nicholas Hoult, where you interviewed Nicholas. It was really, really lovely, and it was, you got that kind of, almost like the two of you kind of going back to that experience of doing, you know, the X-Men films, and Nicholas being, you know, very, very young in his career sort of thing as well. But there was a really funny thing that just kept coming up, was about how often Hugh Jackman had to eat. Every 2 hours, I believe, he was like literally being spoon-fed to kind of keep up his kind of bulk for Wolverine stuff. A huge franchise to be part of, and a huge kind of world to be part of, but it wasn't one that you grew up reading. You weren't kind of a comic book kid or anything, were you?
No, I was into the cartoons actually. In the 90s, there was a really good cartoon, which they've just sort of remade and like maintaining the same artwork for. It was really good. I loved that. Me and my mate used to watch that all the time. But no, I wasn't into comics.
But what was that? I mean, you get the chance to kind of, when it's brought back to life in a way, you know, with the recent Deadpool Wolverine film and stuff, that world still exists and people still kind of love revisiting those films. It's like, I rewatched them with my kids, you know what I mean, second time round, it's like introducing new generations. Those characters were great, and that relationship as well with you and Fassbender with those characters as well was absolutely fantastic. What do you think about, what your memories of that process of making those films and that character?
X-Men First Class was one of those. Remember earlier, if your class for mine back, I was talking about some rubbish. I was talking about how you can make some, you see it on the page, read it on the page, and it's like that, and then you get to production, and it's like that, and then you watch the film in the end, and it's like, wow, it's totally different again. It's like 3 different films. X-Men First Class was like that, where, I mean, if I'm being honest, my kid had been born, I hadn't worked in about 8 months, because I was just staying at home. We stayed at home with him for the first 8 months. We weren't skint, but we had nothing in the bank. We never had any debt, but we had nothing in the bank. And X-Men came to my door, and I was like, wow. And they were filming in Pinewood, which was 40 minutes away from my house at the time. And I was like, this is a no-brainer, like, I've got to do it. And so my agent was like, you need to read the script first. And I was like, aye, no, totally. And,
Where am I shaving?
So I went to read the script, and there was about half a script. I had to read it like, was it a Vapiano? You know Vapiano?
Uh-huh.
It was like one of them. Something a Vapiano. That sounds weird. And I had to go in there, sign something, sit and read it, and then give it back to somebody. It was half a script. It was really good, but it was like half a script. Who knows? But I was like, So I phoned up my agent. She went, how is it? I went, it's just a heartbreaking work of genius. I'm definitely doing it. And really didn't know what it was going to be. But I thought there was enough in there that we could do something with it, and I could pull certain parts of the character. I was really keen to kind of go the opposite way from how he was portrayed usually, and how he was portrayed by Patrick in those original films, which are brilliant, and Patrick's amazing. And if I'm just going to be sage and wise and selfless like he is, then what's the point in doing it again? What's the point in showing him again? He's got to be all the opposite, so make him selfish and vapid and sort of unwise. And so we started those films. By the end of that shoot, I don't know what I thought it was going to be. We were like, don't know, man. Just really don't know. And I remember phoning Michael after I watched it, because I was like, here we go, man. And I watched it, I was like, this is really good. And the first one, I'm really, really proud of that first one. I think it is really good. Even though it's like a daft superhero movie, the first 2 X-Men I'm massively proud of. And I remember phoning Michael, going like, dude, you need to go see it. He's like, really? And I was like, yeah, you need to go see it, it's really good. And he was like, what? And it was that thing that I'm talking about. It was really good on the page. What we did on the day felt like something completely different and maybe not good. And then what ended up Matthew Vaughn put together was like really good fun and really heartfelt and entertaining and stylish, and it was really great. So my memories of that time are not being sure, but going at it anyway, because that's what we do, and making some amazing friends as well. That first film, the whole company came together really quickly, really strongly, and really bonded. I just had my first baby, as I said, and I stayed away from it because we were at home. So I was going home every night, and they were at like Gallivan. And but on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th films, we made them in Montreal, and I couldn't go home, so I ended up gallivanting a bit more. And it was on the 2nd film that Nick Holt just went like, right, you and me are going to be good pals. And he just made me be his friend. I'm so glad he did, because he was a lot younger than me, he still is. Unless I age more slowly. He just went, I'm having you, and I'm so glad he did.
Oh, that's so nice. You mentioned earlier singing and dancing, and then you went, not me. Does a musical appeal to you?
I love some musicals and I don't love some musicals. I have been in 2 musicals in my time. I did West Side Story when I was very young. I played Riff. I was 19 maybe, but it was a professional engagement. It wasn't.
People bought tickets?
It was down in, where were we? Hereford. We were at the Hereford Courtyard Theatre. And it was a pro-am production, so you had like 10 professional actors, of which I was still at drama school. It was in the summer, but I got hired as a professional, and the rest was made up of amateur dramatics and youth theatre. So we had quite a lot of Scottish actors in this production in Hereford, because we did 2 shows. We did Romeo and Juliet, and we did West Side Story. Both the same story, told a different way. And in Romeo and Juliet, I played Romeo. And so Romeo's Capulet, is Romeo Capulet? Or Montague? Is Romeo Montague?
Montague.
I don't know one of them. And So all the Romeo family were Scottish. It was such a weird thing. So you had all these Scottish actors, I know, down in Hereford, on the border with Wales, for a summer, and then in, I guess they would have had me play Tony in West Side Story, except I'm not that good a singer. So they had me play Riff instead. So I have done that, and then I did Privates on Parade as well, in which my privates were on parade. They were, weirdly. There's a bit, we did it at Donmar Warehouse. It was a show about the Army Entertainment Corps in Southeast Asia. I can't remember where it's set. And there's a bit in it where we're all in a shower scene and all the actors are like standing in the buff. And the captain or major comes in and we all have to stand attention. So most of the actors have got a towel in at this time. But me and Nigel Harman have to stand hilariously on something called a vomitorium. You know what a vomitorium is? Vomitorium is when there's like a ramp leaving the stage down through the audience. That's called a vomitorium, right? So I'm standing in the vomitorium with my vomity bits out for about 4 minutes in this scene. Literally standing to attention, not the other way. And because I don't have anything to say in the scene, I've just got to stand there and
4 minutes
and not get hurt. 4 minutes, right? I'm standing there like that, and I just look to my right like that, because the audience are looking at the stage and looking at the actors on the stage doing the scene, and I'm standing like that. I just look to my right, my sister is sitting at like penis height, just there. I'm like, oh, fuck me.
Pure joy.
Pure joy.
Pure joy. 4 minutes, man.
No,
That's
well,
a long time.
the thing is with nudity, you've either got to make it like a blink and you miss it, because if you don't do it, or you've got to do it for quite a long time. Because while the people are naked, the audience aren't really listening to and or watching the story. They're just kind of go, they might not even be attracted to what they're seeing, but they're kind of going like, oh, it's got quite a lot of force there. Yeah. Or like, you know, or like, oh, his bits are dangly, or like, oh, it's big or it's small, or whatever it is, or oh, it's strangely a different colour from the rest of his body. So you've kind of got to either do it for a second and then stop it, or you've got to do it for a long time to give them a chance to get used to it, and then they can start watching the show again, you know what I mean?
I'm going to open up to you guys in just a second. Well, the reason I asked about the musical thing is because I know that, well, one of your karaoke songs of choice is Copacabana, that you've actually sung with Barry Manilow.
Sung it with Barry Manilow, yes.
Wow, there's a lot of fans of Copacabana in the audience, randomly. But I mean, you're singing in front of Barry Manilow, his song. There's a wee bit of a singing voice there, surely.
I don't know. Listen, I used to sing a wee bit when I was at high school, and I sang when I was at drama school. And at one point, they were like, "Hey, you could definitely be in the chorus of a West End musical if you keep working at it." And I was like, I don't think I'm going to make that my ceiling. So if I've got to bend over backwards to do it, but yeah, I got some pipes.
Watch the space. I've got a couple of quick fire questions I want to ask, and then I'm going to open up to audience. Favourite theme park?
Oh wow, that's a good question. I like them for different reasons. I don't. Universal Studios in Florida, I think, and Dorney Park in Pennsylvania.
Lovely. Last gig you went to?
Oh God.
Was it Girls Aloud?
Girls Aloud, it was. Thank you.
You're welcome. Last thing you baked? Being a winner of the Great British Bake Off. Oh.
My Auntie Tricia just made a really good orange upside down cake for my son's birthday. What did I? I mean, it's savoury, is that right?
Fine.
Just leftover roast dinner in a pie, or leftover bolognese in a pie, which I make all the time.
It's a bit lame.
I know, sorry.
Favourite pub game?
Anagrabble.
What?
Anagrabble? So I don't know, maybe other people have got versions of this, or maybe we didn't invent it, but my pals, I was about to say me and my pals, but my pals invented it really. It's basically you get all the tiles from Scrabble, and you put them all, turn them over on the table, and then you take turns to turn them over. You don't take them for yourself yet. And then as soon as there's, the minimum word you can make is a 4-letter word. As soon as there's at least a 4-letter word on the table, you grab it. and whoever grabs it first gets it. But then you can start to steal other people's words as long as you change the meaning, and whoever's got the most longest words at the end wins. But honestly, every time we used to play it in the pub, you get spectators kind of come around because we were so animated. And a couple of my pals are so competitive that they'd start shouting at each other, and you'd be like, "This is like watching boxing or something like that." It was nuts.
You should get in touch with Mattel and get that made, to be honest.
Well, Scrabble's already done it. But the other thing that's really good is Perudo. Perudo's good in the pub as well. Perudo's it's almost like poker with dice.
Can I just say that was 4 minutes, by the way?
Hey!
That was 4 minutes when you stopped talking about being naked to right there. That is a long time.
Long time. It is when it looks like anarchy, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to open up to audience, and I wanted to start actually with someone who's in the audience. Lucy Halliday is in the audience. Lucy is a wonderful Scottish actor who's in James's film that's coming out next year. Where are you, Lucy?
Put your hand up.
She's up there. I told you I was going to come to you with a question. You better have one. The microphone's coming to you.
Do you have one?
Do you have one? She doesn't. Okay, she doesn't have one. Oh, right. Behind you, there's someone with her hand up. Just get the mic. Do we have a mic over this side as well? Great. Put your hands up over this side and get the mic to someone this side. We'll try and get some flip-flopping. Hello.
Hiya, how you doing? I've read that your dream acting role would be to play Jenny Johnson. However, now that you're a little older, who would you like to play in a biopic?
Who would I like to play in a biopic?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a wee bit allergic to biopics, to be honest. And yet, the first film that I make as a director is a biopic. I can never be bothered watching biopics, isn't that weird? So, nobody is the answer. Sorry.
Thanks for your question. Right, we got one over here. Hello.
Hi, James. Over here.
Hiya.
This way. We seen you in Cyrano, Bergerac. It was amazing. Obviously, you got to keep your own accent for that, and I know you took it down to London and then across the States. Did you feel like you had to adjust that a wee bit for taking it over to the States?
The only thing that I had to adjust, because we started in London and then brought it here, then went to the States. I didn't change anything about my accent for America or Britain. There was one scene in it where he pretends to be from the moon. He pretends to be a guy from the moon. And his voice has to change so much. Like if you were doing a conventional production of it, you would have a disguise and all that. But we were just doing voice. We were just not doing any costumes and all that. So his voice had to be so different that he seemed like a different person. So I made him like a wee jakey guy. And it worked in London, great. Up here, it was when I started doing that, it was like a fucking rock concert. It was hilarious. And I upped it for here as well because I could go further and know that you guys would get it. When we went to America, it was just like crickets, man. It was like it went down, like they didn't even hate it. They were just so confused. You know what I mean?
So that Saturday Night Live sketch you did about the pilots.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. It was a bit like that. Without anybody pointing up that it should be funny. So there wasn't even any laughter. So yeah, I had to change it for that, but I can't remember what I did. I don't think I ripped the arse out of it and did something completely different. I think I kept it what it was, but just tempered it for the American ear.
Thanks for your question. We're going over here, and then if you get a microphone somewhere down here as well for the next one. Hello.
Hi. So one of my favourite projects of yours is the disappearance of Eleanor Rigby. I was just wondering when you were filming it, how it came about, if you knew when you were doing certain scenes, like this is going to be from my point of view, or this is going to be Jessica Chastain's, or if it was more of a kind of post-production?
No, we knew all the way. So if you don't know, you probably don't, The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby was 2 films that we made. It ended up being 3 films, weirdly, but we made 2 films at the same time. It's about a couple who lose a little baby, and who, sad, who lose a little baby and then split up. And then that's it, that's the story, right? So one of the films is from my point of view and one of the films is from her point of view, played by Jessica Chastain. We made it completely consciously, so we always knew when we were in my film and when we were in her film, we had to because they look quite different. They've got a different colour palette and a different filming style as well. The sad thing is, the whole selling point of this venture was that you have 2 films told from different points of view. When we took it to Cannes, I think it was, there was a bidding war because it was so well received, and the idea was so exciting. And the company that bought it, I mean, when I say bidding war, it's not like we all made £100 million, but like a company bought it straight away for a few million. It was great, and they were going to release it in cinemas. And what they did was go, do you know what we should do? We should take these two films and edit them into one film. That's going to be really smart. And you had these two amazing films that I'm really, really proud of, but the film that got edited together, I feel it's nice, but it's just a bit like, it's a nice wee film, do you know what I mean? Whereas the other two films was like an experience. The whole point of it was the experience, so I was really sad that ended up happening. So there's now 3 films, you only want to watch 2 of them. You want to watch The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, him, and The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, her.
Thank you for your question. We're over here, hello.
Hi James. You went through a lot of physical changes for your roles as well as wearing elaborate costumes. How does that help your process when you're getting into a role?
Costume's quite big because it changes how you move, changes how you feel. If you change how you move, it changes how you think. I know that sounds daft, but you know, how you think. If you're feeling crap, you move crap. If you're feeling expansive, you move expansive. And it can work from the outside in. It's not just about how you're feeling affecting how you move. How you move can affect how you feel as well. So costume can have a big input into that. Physically, I've been bigger, I've been smaller. I mean, I've never really done gigungous sort of sizes. I'm 5'7".
No, Eva was pretty buff.
Speak No Evil's probably the biggest I've ever been, more than Splitter Glass, but that just happens to be...
Buff, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, sorry.
You've changed. We've just been through the pandemic, and I'd been honestly just eating and lifting weights for 2.5 years for something to do, and then the film came around and I was like, perfect. So everybody was like, oh, did you get any training for the film? I was like, no, I was just bored in the pandemic and lifted too much weight. But yeah, the costume, sometimes it's tricky for me. I don't always feel like I've nailed it with costume, but when you get it right, it does a lot of work for you, and it really affects how you feel internally as well.
I'm going to get this little girl in the front row here. No. Do I want to give you that mic then? No?
I can talk if you want. Have you received like a confrontation, and did it hurt you during your BAFTA performance of 500 Miles? When
Did I receive confrontation?
Because I saw someone in TikTok said, oh, someone needs to give James McAvoy an iron brew and a Roman square sausage, and I was just like,
Hey, that ain't confrontation, that's a prize. That's a good game. Do you know what's weird though? I don't really drink iron brew anymore, I can't drink it. Roman square sausage I can absolutely house. I mean, I was kind of mortified because when David came over to me, I knew he was going to come over to me. I didn't realise he was going to come over to me first. I was like, oh man, here we go. And then I fucked it up. I missed the first bit as well. Cheers.
Probably our last question, if we've got it over here. Right, just in terms of...
I just wanted to ask, you've been really open about the classism in the arts, more specifically for the actors. Being from working class as well, how do you feel like the industry needs to change, both for actors but the crew as well, and how the access route should be made better?
I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? This industry doesn't exist to provide opportunities for people. This industry is based on capitalism, and it is, I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, by the way, but the need or the duty to create future workforce, never mind a diverse future workforce, just doesn't seem to be something that the industry cares about or thinks about. The industry just goes, people will come, people will be created, artists will emerge, and they generally do. So I don't know, maybe we do need to sort of lay the groundwork for people to emerge and people to get trained and all that a lot more. I think what you're talking about in terms of what I've said in the past about a kind of classism, I think my bent and my problem or my issue that I've sort of identified for myself anyway is that it's not necessarily that the industry needs to be full of diverse groups of people. It should be, because that would represent a fair society, right? Or a representative society. It's that what we're really missing, the most important thing we're missing, which a lack of diversity in the film industry is a symptom of, is a lack of educational art for all. And I don't know really what art, educational art or art and education, for me, isn't even about creating artists. It's just about creating well-rounded, capable, confident people who've been exposed to more than just the walls of their school, more than the horizons of their neighbourhood, and more than their own borders. Because when you've got loads of money, you see the world, and you are given the keys to the world. When you don't have lots of money, how do you get this broader view that there are other horizons out there? You get it through art. The other thing you get through art, specifically performance art, if you expose children to it, is you get children who are desensitized to the prospect of failure. So they will go into a room when they're 20 and go, yeah, I can get this job, just like people from Oxford do. But you go, if you don't have that exposure to performance and failure and being booed, and then the next day, them laughing and loving it, or failing again the next day, and being desensitized to this sense of failure, this anticipation of failure, and the deep-seated dread of failure that stops you taking a risk. How do you go in and get that job as a manager in Greg's even? Do you know what I mean? Like, it limits you so much. But you've got this whole section of society who, nothing against them, brilliant, I'm glad they're getting it, they get exposed to all that. And they reap the benefits of it as adults, because this entitlement that people talk about, nothing wrong with it. Everybody should be feeling entitled. We should all feel entitled to go after what we want to go after. There's nothing wrong with that, but we should all have that feeling. You can come from a background with less, but what you're capable of achieving shouldn't be restricted by that. Because we live in a country where we pay our taxes, and our children should be educated on a similar level to people with money as well. And that performance art, I think, can help do that.
Can't wait to see the film, California Scheme.
I hope you enjoy.
We will. Maybe we'll be back here at Glasgow Film Festival.
I would love to.
But before we say goodbye, I want to welcome Alison back on stage from Glasgow Film Festival, which is a small presentation.
Your words, our motto is cinema for all. And so Glasgow Film, as some of you know, really does work with lots of young emerging talent in the programme, so thank you for those words.
Oh, thank you.
So, it's a very special moment. The Cinema City Honorary Award was launched at Glasgow Film Festival last year. It's our year of celebrations. Some of you remember I gave it to Viggo Mortensen, or Festival Husband as I prefer to call it. Safe, James, don't worry. In 1939, the first purpose-built art house cinema outside London opened right here. You're sitting right in it now, and it's this very building. We're very proud of it. Glasgow's love of cinema was already well established by the time the Cosmo opened. With more cinemas than any other city in the UK, Glaswegians proved themselves to be early adopters. Sadly, many of those cinemas did not survive, but Glaswegians continue to be avid cinema goers. Last year, we celebrated 85 years since the cinema opened and 50 years since Glasgow Film Theatre was founded. We exist to celebrate the magic of film for all. That's why we created this award, as a way of recognising individuals who've made a steadfast commitment to cinema. I am delighted, nay very excited, to present James McAvoy, a son of Glasgow, with this year's Cinema City Honorary Award in recognition of his truly outstanding contribution.
Guys, thanks very much. I mean, you just listened to me talk a lot of pish for about an hour and a half or something, 4 minutes anyway. So I won't say much more except thank you very much. I'm extremely honoured to receive this from the Glasgow Film Festival. I am a son of Glasgow. I have been away for a long time, but I'm really, really glad to be back, having made this film here and to receive this award here. So thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay in your seats and please give a huge round of applause to Mr. James McAvoy.